Christ is king, it's where we belong. Stay with the dream, don't lose your way. Right way's the fire that'll light the day. Keep it simple, let the moment arrive. 3-8 trap keeps the hope alive. Hold on tight till the signal's near. Right way's the trail, we're breaking through fear.
Good morning, fellow traders. This is Doug Campbell with Right Way Options, and this is the morning market prep video for June 17th, 2025. Well, my goodness, more news out of Israel, Saudi Arabia. The president suddenly leaves the G7 meeting and is said to be meeting with, will be meeting with his national security group. The majority of the day, I guess, has advised folks to leave Tehran. So a lot of uncertainty going into this morning about what comes next. So let's buckle up for another wild day here in the market. Let's take a peek at what happened overnight. First off, Asian markets mostly lower last night. We had Australia was only down a little over $7. The Nikkei continued to surge higher, up 225 points overnight, while India was down 93, Hong Kong was down 80, Shanghai down $1.32, South Korea ended up down about 3.5 points. If we take a look at European markets this morning, decidedly bearish in Europe. The DAX is down 305 points, FTSE down 40.66 points, and the CAC is down 82.60 this morning. And U.S. futures are also lower here this morning, but they have been trying to bounce back up since I got up this morning in the little pre-market pump that we do every day anymore. Right now, Dow futures are down 247 points. The S&P 500 futures are down 37.25, and NASDAQ futures down 45.25 here this morning. So feeling a little bit on the bearish side. Let's take a look at some of those details here in the market. Let's start off with bonds. Bonds here this morning are fluctuating quite a bit. The 2-year bond has come down to 3.95% here this morning. 10-year bond is at 4.42, and the 30-year bond is at 4.93. And if we take a look at the U.S. dollar here this morning, U.S. dollar, as you can see, just a tiny little bit lower here, and actually higher on the day, but a tiny little bit lower. Right now, dollar futures are up 11 cents here on the morning. So keep an eye on that as we're seeing those bonds pulling back. We'll want to keep a close eye on this, and obviously we're down here near our recent lows here in the US dollar. Now, what's that doing here to precious metals? Well, our precious metals still a little bit of volatility in those. We've got the gold futures right now trying to catch a little bit of price support here on GLD, but gold futures themselves down $2.60 an ounce here this morning. If we take a look at silver futures this morning moving sharply higher. Right now, silver futures up 64 cents. We're at 37.10 an ounce on silver on this big spike up here this morning. Very bullish pattern in here. So we're getting some response back. And as I speak, I'm seeing gold futures moving back higher just a little bit here this morning. Still red on the day, but gaining ground, only down $1.50 an ounce at the moment. Let's take a look at what's happening here in oil. We saw quite a move back down in oil yesterday, so we've whipsawed here quite a bit. We're doing it again this morning. Here on the producers, we're a little bit higher, still hanging in there on those producers. If we take a look at the United States Oil Fund, it's pushing up here this morning. Right now, oil futures are up $1.35 a barrel, coming in at $71.60 a barrel. Brent at the moment is coming in at $74.47 a barrel, and natural gas continuing to move just a little bit higher after popping up substantially yesterday, up about a nickel. We'll want to be keeping an eye on this. We're trying to break that 50-day moving average here in natural gas. So watch that carefully here today as that tries to come up out of this bottom. If we take a look at other precious metals here this morning, copper kind of flat here today. Right now down about 9/10 of a cent here this morning. Keep an eye on that. And platinum is still moving higher, up $16.70 an ounce, and palladium is just a tiny bit lower here this morning by about 80 cents an ounce here this morning. Taking a look at what's going on in cryptos here this morning, we had a really big move up yesterday in Bitcoin, and as you can see, it faded into the close, and this morning we've got Bitcoin coming in at $2,828 a coin lower here this morning. So watch that carefully. That is 2.57%, 59%. And if we take a look at Ether, well, we've got Ether moving lower here this morning by 4%. Down $106 a coin here this morning. So keeping an eye on that as all of this volatility and uncertainty around Israel, Iran, what that's going to mean, what those upcoming things might be or not be, is a worry for the market, obviously, and adding pressure in here for the day. So how about, I think that's all the things we cover in the morning. So how about we settle in, let's buckle up, let's get ready for the Tuesday edition of the Morning Market Prep video. Good morning once again, everyone, and thanks so much for being here. I very much appreciate it. Let's take a look at our index charts here, see if we can gain a little bit of information about how we might want to approach the market for today. Remember, we want to look at the markets for what they are, not for what we want them to be. And we really want to focus in without a bias on what the potentials here are for the day. Support, resistance, and trend are extremely important to always recognize in your charts. So first off, if we take a look at the diamonds, you can see we had a good strong move yesterday. Got a little carried away, and then the rest of the day just slowly faded back, and you can see this morning moving just a little bit lower. Now what's interesting is from the close yesterday to where we are right now, that's 280 points lower. Kind of remarkable how quickly we can move some really big points in the market. Now if the bears were to continue to find inspiration to push us lower today, well, I think we have that possibility that we can break down below this area of support in the chart. So if we were to break lower there, I think our next level down is probably somewhere right in here. And that's going to be a pretty big point move if that were to occur. Now, slipping beyond that point, because that's a fairly good area of price action support in there, breaking down below there probably takes us back to this more recent low here in the chart. And that's going to be a big point move if we stretch down there. Here today. So watch that carefully. Now, if the bulls shake this off and say, hey, we're not going to worry about this, everything is copacetic and good, then I would first look for a retest of yesterday's open and then see if we can push right on through, see if we can break back up here above that this candle's high, and then right back up here into that resistance area of the chart. Now that's going to be a pretty big point move, but it's certainly possible the way the market has been acting. Now we will want to keep in mind that we are still a long ways away from our 50-day moving average. This could constitute a failure in here of our 200-day, and that possibility that we'll start working our way back to that 50-day moving average. But just keep in mind, that's going to be a big move if we go to the Dow itself, kind of measure where we are this morning. Dropping down into here is over 1,000 points lower. So just be prepared for that possibility of those big point moves. And I've been talking about this for some time. We have been so how do I say, relentlessly bullish that if the bears were to come in and really start to push, it could get painful really quick. So make sure you've got a plan to protect yourself. If we look at the SPY also pulling back here on the day. We made a really good push yesterday, and it looked like we were going to take that opportunity to just break out up here, but we found that resistance, ended up pulling back there by the end of the day. Still higher on the day, significantly, but now we're seeing that little bit of bearishness in here. So if we break this area of support like we did right here and then rally back, test it as resistance and show failure, that's actually a little bit of a bearish pattern in there that could form if those bears have anything else to say. And as you can see, this area of price support right through here is going to be fairly significant for us to hold on to. If we hold on to that, probably no worries here in the SPY. However, if we were to break down through there, that's going to be a fairly big point move that could move us back into this next area of price support. If the bulls, however, show no signs of breaking down and we hold this area, I could easily see that possibility. We're right back up here testing these resistance areas in the chart and trying to push back up into yesterday's high. So watch that carefully. Big point moves are possible. And remember, if we get up past yesterday's high, we're probably in that situation where we could be attacking all-time highs here soon in the SPY. We're also very far away from our 200-day moving average in this chart. And if all we were to do was pull back to the 200-day moving average, that's a pretty big point move, so be prepared for that possibility. Now, here in the QQQ, the most overextended market so far, and you can see that big shooting star or complete reversal here from yesterday in the QQQ, showing a little bit of worry and concern. If those bears have anything to say here today and we fall through this area of support, well, then I think we could be right back down here revisiting Friday's close, Friday's area of the market, which was obviously a pretty big point move. So watch that carefully. If we were to fail beyond there, that's where it's going to get a little bit worrisome. Now, there's a really good support area here in the chart, but that is a very big point move down and would probably raise a little bit of concern overall in the market. If the bulls have anything to say, and if we shake this off and we hold right here in this area of price support, then I think there's every reason to believe we could push right back up and be reattacking these high points. And then remember, we'll be looking at that all-time high. All we've got to do is push up through here, and then we have that potential for the all-time high. And the bulls definitely want that. The market wants that to happen. We may just have this conflict in Israel and Iran be standing in the way of that progress. Now, when I say we're the most overextended, you can look and just see how far we are stretched away from that 200-day moving average. So watch that carefully. If we were to come back here and test, notice that 50-day is coming up pretty quickly, but if we were to come back and test, then that's going to be a very big point move to the downside. So watch that closely. Our IWM struggled in there yesterday a little bit. We did push up nicely early in the day, stretched up here, tested this resistance in the chart, and you can see pushed back just enough that we dropped back below this red line here is a support or resistance level that goes all the way back to 2021 and 2022. This morning we're trying to drop below that, so this is going to be maybe a psychological area in the market. To have gained that support and then to lose it again is a little bit of a worry. If the bears have anything to say, well, a retest of these lows we'll have to watch carefully here this morning. Breaking down below that level, I think there's that possibility that we could move down into this area of the market. And again, it's pretty big point moves for the market. If the bulls have anything to say and we bounce right back off of this, maybe we can get right back above that support area there in the chart and be back up here testing yesterday's high if we shake this off today. So if we take a look at our moving averages here, you're going to see that situation where we could easily pull back to that 500-day moving average and relieve some of that overbought pressure here in the market. But at the same time, it's a big point move in the market. Let's take a look at our VIX. Now, our VIX yesterday pulled back pretty substantially with that big bullish run to the upside, but you can see we kind of hung on to this area price support just right around 19 handles in the VIX. And with the bearishness that I see this morning, I would kind of suspect that possibility that this is going to push back up. We've got some little resistance areas in this chart to be thinking about, but if the bears were to really get going, we could be moving up here toward this area of price resistance in the chart, up around 22.5 handles there in the VIX. If we break above that, that's where the concern is. And remember, I've suggested and shown multiple times that it's always the higher low that's a problem. We push up and then hold, and that higher low, push up, hold, that higher low. If this is a break of the downtrend and we push up and hold, and this becomes the higher low, that's where worry can really come up, and that's where real selling can begin. So watch that carefully in the VIX. Our T20s here yesterday, at the high point of T21.22 yesterday, we were really stretched up here. We were right back up here near that bearish reversal zone up here, and then that fade all day long pulling us back. We ended up closing the day with a surge right at the end of the day, surge up at the end of the day right here about 60%. So if the bulls have any inspiration today, well, we certainly have plenty of upside opportunity for them if they can get going. But with the futures that we're looking at here this morning, if the bears were to really get something going here and push back, of course, we have a little bit bigger space for that downside move here before we even reach that bullish reversal zone. And what I'm concerned about is we've lingered up here for so long that once we get down here, we could potentially linger down here for a little while, depending on how the news of this conflict continues to roll out and how serious or whether that ends up expanding. So watch that carefully. Our T2108 yesterday, no particular worries there in T2108. You can see that we had pushed up yesterday, nice little hook to the upside. We've got a little resistance above if those bulls can keep pushing to the upside. We've got resistance up here. If the bears, however, continue with this morning's push in here to the downside, I would watch this area of price support and that possible break down here. We might be below 50% here on a good push this morning. So watch that carefully. We do have some nice support over here that could potentially hold us around that area. And if we fall through it, well, that next area down is probably into that 40% area here on T2108. Now, keeping in mind our T2107 also had a nice little hookup yesterday. We found this upside trend holding in there. So if those bulls can continue to hang on to this, notice we have a pretty good area of price support right in there. And a good push here by the bulls today could push us right up into this area of the chart, those recent highs. And I think the bigger resistance area is up there around 40% of the stocks above their 200-day moving average. However, with the bearish action that we're seeing here this morning, if those bears continue, let's watch an area of price support maybe right down in here, getting close to that 30% area could easily be tested. Beyond that, we're probably looking down here into the mid-20s. Let's take a look at our T2101. I kept warning everyone yesterday to be careful with buying or chasing already extended stocks to the upside, and that was because of the breadth. Although we were strongly pushing to the upside yesterday with a lot of short covering, we didn't see buy breadth coming in to the market. As a matter of fact, that breadth continued to decline yesterday. So watch that carefully here today. If we don't get the breadth turning up on this bearish wave, again, that's going to be good for the bulls. If we don't see the bears taking over in breadth and pushing that higher here today on fear, then that's good for the bulls, and that will be something we'll have to watch for that next potential bounce here in the market. If, however, those bears do pick up on that breadth, that's where we're going to probably see a little bit of painful selling here in the market. So watch carefully there on that market breadth. Let's take a look at our economic calendar here for today. And our economic calendar, well, we've got a busy morning here this morning. So with that economic calendar, we've got retail sales here this morning to be paying attention to. Obviously, this is a market moving number, and what they're suggesting here in the consensus is we go from a 0.1 to a negative 0.6. So seeing those retail sales come back, we'll want to watch that carefully. And X vehicles month over month, they're actually showing that as an increase from a 0.1 to a 0.2. So watch carefully for that this morning. Import-export prices, we'll want to be keeping an eye on that. The consensus is suggesting we're going to see a pullback here on import prices from a 0.1 to a negative 0.3, and on the export prices we're going to go to a negative 0.1 from a 0.1. So seeing those import exports starting to shrink a little bit, and that could be the first real evidence of impacts from tariffs. So watch that carefully here. Industrial production will be after that. This is also a market moving number, and you can see they're expecting an improvement here on industrial production from 0.0 to a 0.1. We've got manufacturing output increasing from a negative 0.4 to a 0.1, and capacity utilization staying there the same. So watch that carefully. Remember, any of these notable economic reports, if they were happen to miss, can really move the market. And then if we take a look, we've got business inventories. They're looking at those business inventories to shrink to 0.0 from a 0.1. After that, we've got the housing market index, and they're expecting housing prices to increase from a 34 to a 36 rank. So watch that carefully as well. Beyond that point, we're probably going to have to keep an eye on these bond auctions because of the fluctuation that we're seeing in bonds. There's a lot of uncertainty here. So watch that closely. This afternoon, we've got a 6-week and a 5-year bond auction to be paying attention to. As we look into Wednesday, we've got a busy Wednesday because we've collapsed Thursday over into Wednesday. Mortgage applications, housing starts and permits, jobless claims. We've got the Atlanta business expectations on inflation. We've got a petroleum status number. We've got several bond auctions, a natural gas report, and then, of course, the FOMC. So don't be surprised. We're going to be thinking a lot about what that FOMC is going to be doing. Right now, Fed funds futures are suggesting no change. That could be disappointing to the market as we've seen those inflation numbers decline. So watch that carefully. Remember the Fed's press conference after that, where we usually get the majority of volatility after they make that announcement. Remember, we're closed on Thursday, Juneteenth, and a little update for you guys, and I'll remind you again. We're closed on Thursday. I am going to be gone on Friday. There will not be a morning market prep on Friday, and I'm also taking off Monday and Tuesday of next week. So I will be gone for Friday, Monday, and Tuesday. There will not be morning preps on those days, but I will remind you about that. Just taking a little time to do some projects that I need to get taken care of here myself. So let's take a look at a few stocks that could be setting up today after we take a quick look at those earnings. Now, earnings, not a whole lot going on here today. We've got JBL reporting this morning. Looks like that is trying to go a little bit higher here this morning. So keep an eye on JBL. WLY also reporting here today and trying to move just a little higher. And that really is all there is for particular notables. We've got stocks like TEN that's reporting, and that's getting a nice pop here this morning, but pretty much everything else is very, very small cap and quite small stocks to be not market moving and not notable stocks. This afternoon, we have Lazy Boy that got to get the right symbol there. Lazy Boy will be reporting this afternoon as probably the most notable, and everything beyond there is, things like this that are little teeny tiny stocks that aren't going to be of any major concern. So Lazy Boy is your notable for this afternoon to be paying attention to. Alrighty, let's take a look at some stocks that could be setting up. And remember, everyone, before we do that, if you could do me that quick favor, if this is the first time you've seen these videos, if you could please click that subscribe button on YouTube and also click that bell icon when it pops up so you'll be notified every time I post a video. If you find these videos to be useful or helpful, if you could do me that favor, click that thumbs up button, leave a brief comment, and that helps the channel to grow. Thank you so much for everyone who does take the time to do that. I truly, truly appreciate it. Now let's take a look at some of these stocks that could be setting up, and that, remember, they're not recommendations to buy or sell any security. You need to do your own due diligence and be watching for the potential of full-on reversals in some of these stocks. Now, I had mentioned stocks yesterday like Five Below, still setting up, looking pretty good in there. Keep an eye on Five Below. It was pushing up, trying to test that breakout up there Watch that carefully. Take a look at Dollar Tree. Dollar Tree made a nice break higher. I mentioned this one yesterday, pushing through that recent resistance, stretching on up. I would watch that. And then, of course, Dollar General, still in that beautiful setup point. Tried to get something going yesterday. Didn't quite make it through that alert, but I would watch that carefully for that potential for that to push right on through here in the market. And they may actually have some bullish upside that will continue even if the market sells off, just because the discounting retailers seem to be doing quite well right now. Now, take a look at, if you're looking for a short trade, boy, Mickey D's, I mentioned this yesterday as a possible short, and someone in the Right Way Options room said that one trade paid for their full month of subscription to RWO. So congrats to that person who took that pattern and really made some money with it yesterday. So watch that carefully here on Mickey D's. There is that possibility that could continue to stretch on down here. Classic shorting pattern in Mickey D's. Let's take a look at Datadog. Datadog's looking very pretty in here. Even that last big push in the market down last Friday had no effect here on Datadog. So if those bulls can continue to hang in here, watch for that next opportunity for that to pop that alert and move on higher. Take a look at Marvel. Now, I picked up a position in Marvel yesterday, so I got a little bias here, trying to push up through this area of the chart. Notice that's a resumption potentially of the uptrend after slipping past this trend. Nice little basing pattern in here overall, trying to come up out of here. So depending on how bearish the market might get this morning with this data or worry about Israel-Iran, watch that carefully. This could easily push on through. But remember, I have a little bias on this at this point, so keep an eye on that. You might also want to be keeping an eye on uranium plays. Take a look at UUUU. Had a nice little pop, pulled back quite a bit, but there is some strength in these uranium plays here in the market. So watch that carefully in uranium. URA, nice little pop-up yesterday, holding in there just fine. There is nothing at all wrong with that chart. Watch that closely. My UEC popped right up into this recent resistance and pulled back, but you can see we're still trying to push through here this morning. If it can get through this resistance, I'm going to be real happy with this trade. Watch that carefully in UEC. And CCJ, my goodness, CCJ is looking very good here in the chart. Keep an eye on that. Showing a lot of strength in that uranium area of the market. You might want to keep an eye on Darden. Darden popped hard yesterday. You will want to keep in mind that we're going to report earnings on this on Thursday, so watch that carefully. But Darden showing lots of bullishness here, popping strongly yesterday in that chart. Keep an eye on this stock, CRGY. Some of those energy stocks are showing some really nice bullish patterns on the producer side, and you can see broke through my alert in here, holding up in that area just above. I would watch that carefully. With oil moving up today, we might see some of these stocks start moving on higher. You could look at things like Devon. Devon had a nice little stretch here to the upside. Any rest, pullback, any consolidation. Obviously, yesterday we pulled back quite a bit and pushed back up. Now we might see with that oil pushing up today, that might stretch right up into this next area of resistance in the chart. So keep an eye on charts like that. I still want to keep an eye here on SHOP. Now, SHOP has been struggling in this range here for a little bit. My initial alert was over here, and it's just been kind of stuck in this range here. But I'd still watch that closely. If we can resume this upside trend in here, I think it's worth paying attention to. So a little bit of bullish push might push push that right on through. Take a look at EA. If you're like gaming stocks out there, Electronic Arts looking very, very good. And that possibility here that could break through that resistance. Had a good day yesterday. This is a pattern I call a fig leaf pattern, not a fig leaf, a fig Newton pattern, where we have, that light cookie, dark center in there. Those often play out to a push through to the upside here, a follow through to the upside. So watch that closely. And TTWO, take two, also had a really nice reversal yesterday, popping back up. It might be a resumption of that uptrend this morning, trying to break through this fairly significant area of price resistance in the chart. But notice all-time highs here in TTWO, so watch that carefully. This may stretch right on through to the upside, so watch that carefully. There's a few stocks for you to pay attention to. I apologize, I'm running this video a little bit long again this morning. I want to wish you all the best in your trading. Be careful, be safe. Could be some volatility, and remember, we got that potential volatility of all those economic numbers this morning, and then everyone's going to be thinking about the FOMC announcement on Wednesday and heading into a holiday on Thursday. So plan your trading carefully. Be very wise in your trading. Try to be careful about chasing stocks. Be careful about over trading stocks with all of this uncertainty that we see in the market. With that, I wish you all the best. Be careful, be safe, and I'll see you right back here bright and early Wednesday morning.
Black and white candles, my stars in the dark. Price is my king, got that fire and spark. Rideways my ranch on the trader's trail, trading with heart where the profits prevail.